claim as our fathers and grandfathers. They were iron men. They fought for the principle that they were contending for, and we understood that when they did this, it was followed with that degree of posterity that we now enjoy has come to us. We hold this annual celebration, Independence Day, to remind ourselves of all the good done in this process of time, of how it was done and who did it, and how we are historically connected with it. And we go from these meetings in better humor with ourselves. We feel more attached with one to another and more firmly bound to the country we inhabit. In every way, we are better men in the age and race and country in which we live for these celebrations. When was the last time you felt like that? On July 4th. Now, John Adams wrote to Abigail on July 3rd. On July 2nd, the Congress voted actually to go independent, but on July 4th, they adopted the Declaration. So he's writing to Abigail thinking July 2nd is going to be the big day. He says, that day is going to be a day that will be forever remembered. It would be marked by pomp and parade, shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of the continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. But he also said, it ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized. When's the last time you had your hot dog on July 4th and felt it was a solemn occasion? So, my daughter and I were sitting around one day lamenting the fact that we don't have a civic calendar anymore, trying to figure out what to do with it. And anybody here know the origin of Kwanzaa? Okay, how did Kwanzaa start?
Was it a Black Panther, former Black Panther, that came up with it?
It was a professor in the University of California system in the 1960s, far left, that decided it was time to invent a new holiday. And so he pulled some terminology out of an African language, and he created pillars, and he created the 7 days. And I have no problem with it. It was a great idea. And because he felt there really needed to be something for African Americans, and this was a way to get to their roots. No problem with that. But I figure if, the socialist professor in California can make it up, then we can do something to celebrate America. And so we decided to create, and after a lot of discussion with my daughter, Patriots Week. Now, Patriot Week starts on September 11th. That's a date which, for us, means a lot. But I will tell you, the young people in the country don't really, because we just assume they know, they don't really know what happened, at least some of them don't know what happened on September 11th. I went to a school, because we celebrated Patriot Week, I went to a school, they had celebrated September, they had acknowledged September 11th, they had a ceremony with some firefighters, and I went into the school and I asked the students there what happened on September 11th. And they raised their hands, and one of them said, well, the Twin Towers. I said, right, what happened with the Twin Towers? Somebody else raised their hand. Well, two planes flew into them and they collapsed and lots of people died. I said, that's exactly right. Why did the planes crash into the Twin Towers? Dead silence. Okay. I said, do you know that there are these people called terrorists who hate America, and they killed the pilots and people on the planes and then purposely flew them into the Twin Towers and in the Pentagon, etc., just to slaughter innocent people? And they were aghast. They really did have no idea that that's what happened. So an event from 2001, we're starting to lose its understanding. The week ends on September 17th. Anybody know what September 17th is? Constitution Day. That is the anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. And Senator Byrd, maybe the only thing I can think of, I'm sure he's done lots of good legislation, but the only thing I can think of is that he slipped into an appropriations bill that if you receive federal money and you teach, you're a school and you teach, you have to teach about the Constitution on Constitution Day. So a lot of public schools are now doing this. By divine intervention, that is 7 days, September 11th to September 17th. And on each day, what we do is we celebrate a founding first principle, we celebrate a founding father or other major historical figure associated with that founding principle, a document or a speech that embodies that document, and Dad, you got to get the kids excited, let's have fireworks. I said, well, I don't know about fireworks. I said, what about something else? You know, flags are really cool. And we have all these really cool flags in our history that we don't have an excuse to use. You might think of Betsy Ross and things like that. We have, well, you got Don't Tread on Me. Gadsden flag. That's one of the days. That's the last day, September 7th. No, that's, I think it's earlier, but it's in there. The Bennington flag, which is the Stars and Stripes, except for the stars, it's a 76. They marched that into battle during the Revolution. There's a number of other flags. So to give you an example, James, we'll say limited government, James Madison, the 9th and 10th Amendments, actually the state of Michigan flag, because we're celebrating federalism along with that as well. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about. This year, it was the inaugural year, we had over 20 participants. We had many schools. We had K through 12. We had higher education, law schools were involved. We have a website. We also had articles in the newspaper, and we had a public service announcement on the radio. This is something that not only this group should embrace, but you as individuals can easily go to a school, easily go to your Kiwanis or Lions Club, your neighborhood block park, whatever it is, and say, this is something we can celebrate. It doesn't cost a lot of money, probably doesn't cost any money. If you could do it at your dinner table. But I do think it's very important for us to start to renew our faith in America. And I have a bunch of brochures about that as well. Now, before I conclude, there is patriotweek.com, and you'll be able to see that. And I am going to sign books. So before I conclude, I just wanted to tell you that, if you're interested in learning more. Now, comes the part where I have to ask you to seriously consider what you heard today matters. Because if it does matter, you need to act. This can't be done by one or two people. We need people to be interested and engaged, and people that are willing to take some time and energy, much less time and energy the Founding Fathers did, to preserve our republic. I believe in the people united with a common purpose. I believe in their power to do that. We can change America, and we can change Michigan if we put our minds to it. If we don't, you have been forewarned that our nation may not survive. Thank you.